Okay, so I have the Lee Loadall 2 shot shell loader all set up and ready to go to make some target shells. And I figured I would just run through how I do it and my thoughts on the machine. It is relatively inexpensive. The machine can be bought for less than $100, and it's ready to go the minute you get it, which is nice. It will cost you a bit to get into the hobby. You do need some components. You do need some shells. I highly recommend trying to find some trays here that hold shot shells. I think I got mine off Midway. They sell them as an accessory to a toolbox. What's really good about those is dual purpose here. It keeps them organized, and also it's kind of like a size checker. If I get any that go in real tight, I toss them. Just something I noticed with the, if I ever had any feeding issues with my semi-autos and stuff, it was sometimes attributed to rounds that were, they got stepped on. They weren't quite round. So this was a good investment on my part, and it kind of just, I keep track of how many I load. I do three or four trays. I know how many that is, and I just like to stay organized. Also, you'll need obviously gunpowder. This is Clay's. It's got loading data right on it. You can also go on their website on their website and get more recipes based on whatever components you buy. Today we're using Winchester primers, 209 shot shell primers, because that's what I have in inventory here. I recommend a digital scale. This one I think was like $50 on Midway. It's a Frankfurt Arsenal lower model, made in China. Works great for what I need it for. Comes with a calibrating weight and also a little pan. You need a screwdriver handy, or a 5/16, I think it's 5/16 nut driver, because when you do have to swap out the bushings for your shot and your powder, you just remove this plate here. It is a pain in the butt to do. Is one of the cons on this machine. You do need to turn the machine upside down if it's already loaded like this, so that when you remove this, you don't leak out your powder or shot. I aided that by mounting this actually not directly to my bench. I've seen many people that mount them right to their bench. That makes it a pain in the butt to empty, because you will have to turn this machine upside down to empty whatever you haven't used. And mounting it directly to the bench is not conducive to that. So what I've done is mounted it to, I don't know what this is a 1x6, something like that, or 1x5. Two pieces of board here, and I have it clamped with just some cheap Walmart clamps here, one on each side, as you can see. I do recommend, this is a cheap little light too, just shed a little light on what you're doing if you don't have adequate lighting, which I didn't in this environment here. Moving down the line, you may notice that I have two bushings. I did buy a few extra parts. I can show you a little later where it comes in handy to have two of these collets, resizing collets. Down the line here, this is a serial, kind of like a serial Rubbermaid thing. I have a bunch of them. I don't know if you can see up on there's some more shot up there on the wall. But the 2 or 3 different sizes that I keep. Right now, today we're loading shot number 8 shot. So this is here. I don't usually put more than 25 pounds in it. It makes it heavy. But what's nice about it is it makes it easy to pour by having that flip top. And this also removes. So when it comes time to dump the lead from your loader back into this, it's a big target. So less chance of you spilling shot. Because the shot is probably the most expensive part of the reloading. Now, I'll tell you this, it does save money, not much. It's more of a hobby, satisfaction of making your own rounds. You can make better rounds than you can buy. That does take practice. There's a lot of test and tune in the beginning. That's why I recommend a scale. Mess around with the different loadings and see what works good in your shotgun. And I recommend you go out and you pattern and you actually mathematically calculate what rounds pattern the best for you with different chokes, and try to make the best round you can. And also then you can mess around with making lighter rounds, 1 ounce 7/8 ounce to save lead and also save money. I've gotten it down to like $43 a case. Typically when it's on sale it's $59.99. At least the gun club. One thing about the gun club, these are the only shells I'll reload. This sport will turn you into a somewhat of a dumpster diver. There you can see the gun club Remington. These have already been deprimed. It'll definitely turn you into somewhat of a dumpster diver in the beginning until you get enough rounds. I have a few thousand. I don't know if you're going to be able to see here. See if I can swing the light down. It's not really easy to see, but there's a few thousand down there. Reload them 4 or 5 times, and I have probably a lifetime supply there. But whenever at the range, if there's a box of them in the dumpster, I will go in and get them and make sure I have plenty. The last 4 or 5 years, I haven't shot one round that was factory loaded, either for my hunting rounds or my my target rounds. Also, you'll need, and you can see I have 2 different types here today for the 1 ounce load I'm doing. These are Jammer XL wads. These are the Claybuster wads. They're the knockoffs of the the Remington or Winchester ones. They work fine. Like I said, test and tune. What I'm doing today is there's actually 2 different loads I can do with different wads that are acceptable. With these wads here, the load will be a little bit faster, around, let's see. With the pink wads, they're going to be around 1,200 feet per second, and they'll be around 1,275 with these Jammer XLs. I don't know why they would be any faster. They load exactly the same crimp, but anyway, according to the recipe book, that's what they do. Now, I won't be sharing my actual load data. It's all available on the website. I'm using Winchester primers. I'm using the WAA 12S wads or the Jammer XL ones, which are the 1 ounce equivalents of Windjammers. They both work for me. As far as I know, it's not dangerous. It's not over any pressures. I'm using enough powder to get me up to about 1,300 feet per second. So if you find that load works for you, you can find that data on the website. So let's see, back to my tips here. Let's just go back over here. So back to my tips here. One thing I will recommend in the beginning that you do weigh, use a good scale, right? And weigh out, every 5 rounds, every 10 rounds, till you get used to how your machine throws. Now, it is a cheaper machine. The tolerances are a little different. It does not throw super consistent. It will never really go over. Like, so, I'll run like 3 or 4 through it and see what it does. And, it's usually within 3/10 of a grain, which is okay with me because I don't really run towards the higher pressures. I would recommend, if you are going to load at a maximum pressure, say it calls for 20.1, but you have 2 different bushings, and one does 20.5, and another one does 19.9, and you really want to do that load, I recommend hand loading them. Load them to the exact 20.1 with a good scale, and then use the machine to crimp them. Now, one downside to this machine is it is optimized for 8 ounce shot. What that means is, and you know what, let's just try and demonstrate that real quickly. So I have my scale here. What that means is that it measures in a tube similar to this. Now, this one is a 7/8, but it's done by volume. And it's done by volume calculated on 7.5 shot. So if you're using heavier shot, say like 5 or 6 for your hunt rounds, and you have a 1 1/8 ounce, you're not going to get that 1 1/8 ounce. You're going to get considerably less. If you're using lighter shot, like we're using here today, and we'll test that. We should, because the pellets are smaller and it measures by volume, calibrated for 7.5, it should throw actually a little heavy on the shot. Now, if that bothers you, which it does for me on my hunting rounds, I hand load my hunting rounds to the exact pellet, to the exact weight I want. But for a target shot, I'm okay with that inconsistency as long as I get a good crimp and some good patterning. So we'll just test that real quick. I'm going to just dump some powder here first. Throw that back up top. Sounded like we got a little bit of lead in there too on that first one. So the easiest way to do this is to do it into a shell. So what I'm going to do real quick is just throw a primer in. So that's our primer station. You can buy the loader. I found the loader doesn't work so well. But anyway, let me just throw primer in. See, it doesn't take much effort. We're now primed. And we're going to try and get a good, see what kind of shot we're throwing. So this is a 1 ounce bushing. Let me switch over to ounces here. Tear it to my pan. So we can see here, I'm just going to try and zoom in. Don't know if you can see that, but it's over 1 ounce. Like I said, if we were using 7-shot, it would probably be considerably closer, maybe 1 or 2 pellets off. But because we're using 8-shot, you can see it throws a little heavy. So anyway, you know what, while I have the scale out, I'm just going to check off camera here my powder drop. And it's throwing right on the money, which is good. Now what I do recommend is when you do fill this machine, you do run a few back and forth like I just did there. Now we got to get back in the proper cycle so it's ready to drop powder first. All right. Do run a few back and forth just to get the, make sure the reservoir and the nipple in there is full, and you'll get a lot more consistent charges out of it. Now, one of my other recommendations is, now you can see I've already took the time to resize them and deprime them. And I'll just show you a blank here. So here's a spent shell that I have picked up off the ground. And the reason I do that before is if you watch, this is the depriming. This is pretty violent. And not this part here, but this part here usually. And you see things jump in there. And let me just go down here too and just do one more. So what we're doing here is the first step in loading. Placing the resizer with the line up on our shell. We're going on the first station, which is going to deprime and resize. If we place a primer in here, at this time we can also prime and remove the collet. Now, if it goes smooth, it's okay. But what I noticed was when I was running all the way down the line, loading shells, one station at a time, that violent shaking was giving me some inconsistent charge throws, more inconsistent than I wanted it to be. So I found out that it was plenty easier for me to do that step first, and then now all I have left to do is start at this station, prime, load my shot and my powder, pre-crimp and crimp. I will show you a tip real quick. Maybe if you're not new to the reloader and you're still washing, this takes a little practice, but what you can do, I'm going to need a few shells for this. What you can do is actually do 2 stations at once here, and kind of be a little progressive. And if you do it the way I do, where you deprime first, and I'll just show you once you get started here. So you deprime one, all right, Now if you have an extra collet like I do, slide it over. Alright, get it started here. Now with every depress, we're going to get one deprimed shell. And I'm pretty confident that if we take out a primer, if you're going to do this all in one step, deprime and prime before you started your actual loading, you could move this guy over, see it's deprimed. I've never tried this, but I'm pretty certain it'll work. Now if we look, we have a prime shell with every press of the machine. So up to you to decide if that's something you want to do. Okay, on to the actual loading. This way I can shorten this video up a little bit as we're getting close to 20 minutes. So we have a whole lot of deep prime shells here. My preferred way of doing it. What you can do is, I've read about the accessory they sell that loads the primers, but you have to manually actuate it. So if I'm manually doing that, I might as well manually load them. So what I actually do is I just grab like maybe 10, 20 at a time, and I just line them up here. This usually goes a lot smoother when I'm not working around a tripod. And just an extra note, when you do deprime, they get caught in this little door here. If you're doing a lot, what you can do is put a garbage can. If you mount it close to the edge of the table like I've done here, I'm not going to open this because they're all going to come falling out, but you can just leave this open and let them fall right in your garbage can. Otherwise, every 150, 200 rounds or so, you're going to need to empty that out. Now, the book says you can do 200 per hour. At this rate here, I actually get a little more than 200 per hour because I've already done the priming and depriming, but basically, show you how it goes. Put yourself a primer in. You run it down. You don't have to press real hard on the primer. You'll feel it stop. All right, there's our prime shell. Next, you load it in this station here. You run it down. You drop your powder. You can probably hear that fall in there. Lift back up. You're going to load your wad in. I don't put any pressure on the wad. I just go down until it stops. Then you can load your shot. So now if we look, we have shot. Go to your first station. Find a line. See that you can see there's a line in the crimp there. Face that towards you. Light pressure. You can see it's pre-crimped. Right over to the final station. And there you go. That's a completed round. So you know what, while we have time here, I will do a few more. This one's already primed. Much easier to do without a tripod in front of you, but overall a great loader. You know, if you're not concerned with making 1 billion rounds in one day, and you think of it as a hobby, you just take your time. You know, just keep track of what you're doing, so you don't miss a step, or like I almost right there, I almost forgot to put powder in. And you know, focus on what you're doing. You eventually get kind of into autopilot mode. There you go. Put another one in there. Now the progressive ones are considerably more expensive, and that may be for you if you need to reload a lot. I mean, I do this in between my shooting sessions, and I always have enough ammo. So that's for you to decide, but this is the cheapest way to get into the sport. Recommend getting some reloading books. It's going to take some practice. You won't be getting good, perfect crimps like this in the beginning. Sometimes you'll have ones that are a little over, some that open up on you, but a little bit of practice, and it should turn out good for you. So thanks for watching. If you do have any questions regarding anything I'm using here or any techniques, feel free to leave a comment, or if you want to see more about the loading, step-by-step instructions. It's pretty straightforward. The instructions are great in the book. So thanks for watching. Take care.